Chairman, we do not have a quorum. Is the camera rolling?
Mhm.
It is. I would just like to take this minute to express my frustration that we don't have a quorum in an election year with commissioners who are running for re-election. So, we need commissioners and elected officials that are gonna step up to the plate. Be accountable. When you don't show up for your meetings, we have one member that's not running this year. Lately he's been to a lot of meetings, but the first couple of years he wasn't. We have one commissioner who's not here tonight, and I'm not gonna put anybody on blast. I'm just gonna say that, it's very disappointing when we have a committee called and advertised and the public's here, and we don't have a quorum. And, these commissioners are gonna have to answer for that. And that's all I can say. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you wanna call the meeting to order, but I would like to read something for the record.
Yeah, we can't call it.
All right. I would like to read something for the record. This is an email that I sent out. This will explain a lot about what was on the agenda tonight. Mr. Chairman, members of the Oversight Committee, and public, I believe this committee will soon become one of the most influential committees in the county, and that will be built upon circumstance. We may not want to, but out of an abundance of caution, we must listen to our highest elected officials when they tell us food shortages are coming. How does that affect Stewart County, and how can we prepare for times ahead where we may have more children and adults in Stewart County that may need basic nutrition? As our priorities have changed and the abundance of basic foodstuffs is threatened, this committee must have a tighter hold on the federal ARPA funding that we have available to distribute in government services, as this deadline for distribution does not expire until the beginning of 2025. Mr. Chairman, we must consider that Stewart County could be better served by taking advantage of the federal money we've received and scaling down the original amount going to highway from $500,000 to $300,000, and divide the remaining $200,000 between the Sheriff's Department and the ambulance service, and advising all departments that it should be used for capital projects, thus giving them what they want in equipment and saving the county new money for other much-needed funding, namely pay raises, COLA, and possibly food and commodities. Cutting that money back and earmarking it ensures that capital projects are purchased, and this is important as committee nor full commission had any input on the highway allocation of the original consideration of $500,000. I believe this scaled down number and the division between all public safety departments uses our ARPA funds more wisely, considering the main point of this email, which follows. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ARPA money already recommended at Oversight and approved at full commission that will, for whatever reason, and there are many, never be claimed. It is already nearing $100,000. Due to restrictions, this money will not be allocated. Members, if we have food shortages in this county, as is being predicted, I want us to have as much money as we need to feed our citizens, many of whom will be children and at home on summer vacation. With 3 summers ahead of us where we can spend this money and may need a food program, I am asking this committee to take the lead in Stewart County and consider for discussion that any unclaimed or unapproved, failed to meet restrictions, ARPA money could be held for food programs for our citizens in the event of food shortages. I've included in the attachments, and many of these have these in the public too, some sound reasoning as to why we should prepare. We see fuel prices going up, gas prices, bread prices, milk, meat, chicken, poultry, everything's going up. Inflation is at a 40-year high. I've included in the attachment some sound reasoning as to why we should prepare. And I also provided suggestions for solutions to get us started. Mr. Chairman, you may already know if the school system has these particular programs from the USDA school lunch programs in place, and if we at county can assist or help to get them started. We want to prepare at the county level for any crisis. We will partner with the school system, with organizations like Second Harvest, our churches, whatever it takes to have funds available to feed our citizens. I wanted to read that in the record, Mr. Chairman. I do know that we have the highway superintendent here. We don't have anybody from ambulance or Sheriff's Department, but Ronnie had sent a proposal over for his capital projects, and it was 2 tandem dump trucks. Is that right, Mr. Sumner? For about $250,000. So we can satisfy that requirement to take care of him. The ambulance service would like to have auto CPR machines. My memory serves me right, that's about $100,000. So we're still dividing this $500,000 out, but we're just keeping it at $500,000 for all of public safety, if this committee chooses to do that. So that was my recommendation, considering what our president has told us, that there will be food shortages.
Will we have a chance to speak to?
Yeah, we're not in session. We didn't call order, so not yet. So I'll finish up. So considering what our president has told us, telling us there are going to be food shortages, we need to prepare some of this money and put it back. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Ronnie, you can speak, we're not in session, so we can't act on that.
Right.
We can't answer questions.
I didn't know nothing about this till today. Ron had told me about the 500, and I was gonna do Honey Fork, which I could still do, but Standing Rock ain't gonna get done. And I hate it for the people, and I probably done a little bit of promising I shouldn't have, but done that based on what I was told. So I want everybody to know that this is nothing to do with the highway department. If I can't get the money, I can't get it, and the people Standing Rock will have to understand, this is not the highway department doing this. But I was told I was gonna get it, now I'm not. I ain't got no control over whether I can or if I can't. But I was just, guess I shouldn't have told anybody until it was in our account. But I got a lot of people on Standing Rock, and it is a careful road. And just trying to make everybody happy. Now they're gonna be puffed up at me, but they'll just have to have fun. I can't help it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, now this is not a done deal, Ronnie. This is not a done deal. I'm trying to put money back for food and commodities if we need it. But there's a lot of money left in there. And if this committee, if Mr. Summer at the Highway Department can convince this committee, for lack of a better word, that he will spend it on what we asked for.
A compromise.
A compromise, right. This committee can recommend whatever it wants to the commission. You can go above, I can tell you right now, there's $100,000 there, if you wanted to send it to highway. But that's something that we'll have to talk about.
I got a question for you, Ronnie. How far along are you on preparing to do these roads? How far along are you?
I done got all my bids, my quotes and everything in. I got my priority roads. I'm doing from the time I got elected till now, the worst road to the best. And I'm gonna start at Honey Fork, Standing Rock, Gillum Hollow, Kill Hollow are my overlay roads. And the more money I get, the faster I can do them. And the people on Honey Fork, it's horrible. And the people down Standing Rock, I know all of y'all been down it. I don't have to say that. Kids on the bus, their butts never hit the seat.
A lot of traffic on that road, ain't
A lot of traffic. And the more money I get, the more I can help. And I know that nobody likes looking out there anymore, seeing a nice road. I had a lady one time, lived up 35 years on a gravel road. We finally tarred and chipped it, and I thought she was gonna break my neck.
crying.
There's nothing you can do to change somebody's life for me than to give them a new road. Something that everybody loves and appreciates.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Mr. Chairman, I could not disagree with Mr. Summer at all, but I can tell you this, if it comes down to feeding our kids or paving a highway, I'm holding the money for feeding our kids, and that's all I need, you know. I hope it doesn't come to that, but we have to listen to what's being told to us. So, and I know Mr. Summer would agree with me on that.
Absolutely.
We
When
need-
it comes to feeding the kids,
That's
We need to schedule another meeting.
absolutely.
Well, that could.
Have to. Have to. Can we get one done before the 11th?
We just have to advertise 5 days, and we don't necessarily have to advertise in the paper, but we do have to advertise.
Yeah.
So, we could maybe have it on the 11th.
We got budget and finance on the 11th,
But
but
we'd have to have it a third
yeah,
committee meeting.
we can have it before budget and finance.
Mr. Chairman, is that what you're recommending, that we try to have another meeting?
You
before
okay
April
with that?
11th?
Everything right before the budget signing.
Yep.
And then we're gonna have regular report.
Yep.
We got 3 meetings that night.
We would have. Right now, we just got 2.
We'll try not to have it on that same night.
Well, I mean, hey, I can work it out.
Oh, I can't do,
I'm fine, but I don't wanna let these other folks, you know. You know,
You got Melissa and Andy and,
Shane. And Shane's out of town, we understand.
you would have to pay with what?
With his job.
Early.
have to do it, budget and finance at 6 or 6:30, probably 6:30.
6:30.
Yeah, we have to do it at 6. That's okay.
We'll try to schedule it 6 o'clock
Yeah.
on the 11th. Mr. Chairman, is there anyone else in the audience? Anybody else that's not, we didn't call this to order, anybody else have anything on their mind that they wanna talk about? For the Oversight Committee, as we try to determine how the rest of this ARPA federal money is gonna be spent.
Yeah, I do have one thing to say, as chairman, I apologize to these people for coming here and us not doing our job. So, we were here to do ours, but everybody wasn't here. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I noticed some people from Parks and Recreation here.
All right.
Sorry. It's quiet, well, listen. Yesterday I was like, oh, can you tell me that?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay, we can call the meeting to order. We have 3 commissioners present, and 2 visitors. Okay, Mr. Mayor, presentation of applicant for nonprofit monitoring of ARPA funds.
All right, Mr. Chairman, let me just remind the Oversight Committee, recommendation at Oversight and approval at full commission is only the first step for nonprofits, NGOs, or premium pay for essential employees. We did that, just because full commission has approved it, you've recommended that they've approved it, we can't disperse the money until we have final clarification from the state. And also, when it comes to nonprofits, we can't disperse the money, this ARPA money, in the same way that we normally distribute money to nonprofits under that resolution. So we're gonna have to create another resolution that deals specifically with a separate pot of ARPA money. And so all that has to be ironed out. So like I said, getting it through committee and full commission is just the first step. And then it could be, before the state gives us final clarification, it could be June before a lot of this money is distributed. So we just wanna make that public. That
Okay.
just because the commission has approved it, a lot of people are saying, you know, where's the money? And so we cannot distribute it until clarification from the state.
Name a few of them nonprofits, that you're talking about. Name just a few of them off the top of your head.
So, we have the Athletic Association,
Okay.
Stewart County Historical Society, CASA, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, VFW.
The
American
dog
Legion,
rescue thing, or?
Animal control. Now, the animal control, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Fitzhugh, because, there are certain, we had earmarked this, as I mentioned, there's $100,000 that may not be able to be claimed because they won't meet the restrictions. So we have animal control groups that want to build kennels, but there's a lot of questioning surrounding those kennels. And I think you guys have already heard
We've
those.
already asked that.
You've already heard the complaints from the citizens, and so, when there's a public outcry like that, we back up. This was a good idea for the animals. It's always a good idea to do something like that. But when we start looking at restrictions or rules that aren't being met, and maybe this money could be better spent in other areas like food for our citizens, then it's possible that we may not be able to distribute some of this money. They won't meet the restrictions.
I said all along, you just can't write a check to somebody without having accountability behind it. What they're gonna do with it, how they're gonna do it, and, did we ever decide what we was gonna do on trying to follow up on these people getting this money? We talked about, what was that we talked about? in
I think
meeting?
at the last commission meeting, we
Yeah.
talked about hiring somebody
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
that.
did we ever do any?
There was supposed to be a group here tonight to give a presentation, but they're not here.
Okay,
It's
okay.
a monitoring group, a consulting.
All right,
group.
that's why I was wondering, Well, I mean, it's great to get this money, but we wanna make sure it's spent wisely and not just thrown out there and,
Well, and spend on what they told us that they were gonna spend it on.
right, you're exactly right.
I've seen reports that, one of the groups that we wanted to build kennels for, I think maybe we were under the assumption that they didn't have any kennels and they needed kennels, but apparently they have a lot of kennels already out there, so, we're probably not gonna,
Well, you spend down the money on private land,
that's another thing.
that's where it comes into play there. Well, I mean, what happens if they sell that property or whatever, you get this money tied up in it,
That's right. So we're taking an awful hard look at that, just to
Plus,
name a few.
bringing animals in from outside the county,
That's another thing, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman. Yeah, if they're bringing animals in, listen, if one group already has kennels, another group's bringing animals in from out of the county, I don't think the citizens are gonna like their money being spent on that, so, while we wanna do the right thing and we wanna disperse this money, if they're not gonna meet the restrictions that we put on them, we'll pull that money back and we'll save it for what's really needed, so.
All right. I guess we're ready for number 4.
Yeah, well, we talked about that, I read that email. I would like a recommendation for $300,000 to the highway to spend on capital projects. That will cover it. There is $100,000 that needs to go to ambulance service for the CPR machines. If this body wants to spend more money to the highway, send more money to the highway department, that's your choice.
How much money do we have?
Well, now that we have $100,000 that may not be going out, we're in the range of about $300,000 is what we don't have earmarked right now. So we could allocate more money, we could.
Well, that 500,000 you talking about, you're saying 300,000 is above that 500,000?
No, yes, but again, now, when we start figuring in commodities and food stuff that we might be considering, that's shrinking that number down a little bit more, okay? So it all comes down to, do we want to allocate this money right now to the highways and the roads, or do we want to put a little bit of it back to save it for what we've been told is coming?
Or what are we looking at down the road about more money coming in, or that all of it, or we got more money coming?
That's all of the ARPA funds. I mean, there's more infrastructure money coming
That's what
in
I'm saying.
at the state level, right? There's more money coming there. But as far as this federal funding goes, that's it. So,
I don't think there's anything wrong with us because we don't have to spend it until 2025. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting some of it back in case there is some kind of emergency, like you're saying, if there is a food shortage, or even if there's an emergency within the county that money could cover. Everybody puts money back for emergencies, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with, maybe saying, if we don't spend this money on emergencies, we're going to put it toward the highway department, or we're going to put it toward the sheriff's department, or EMS, or whatever, if we don't spend it for emergencies. But if we spend it, then that's where, of course, that's where it's going. Everybody puts it back in money for emergencies, and if and that's certainly an emergency for probably more than 80% of this county. I mean,
That's right.
it really is, so I don't see any trouble with that. I mean, now one of the things that come in front of us every year, so since I've been here, is, you know, our ambulance service always needs a new truck. And Greg's done a fantastic job at, you know, finding things and just changing out the box. But, you know, at some point, can they get a new truck? You know, a new one, because what he's got are older models, and of course, you know, the older models are burning more gas, more diesel, whatever they're using, so I'd like to see at some point that our ambulance service can get a new truck.
And he has a schedule, that he rotates those out, and he'll change the boxes out, and he'll get a whole new truck sometimes, but, yeah, I don't think this year he's scheduled to ask for one.
No, I think that he asked for, I think he did
He
last
did
year.
last year.
But,
We know on rotation, I think.
kinda like buses.
Mr. Chairman, would you, or members, would you consider recommending $300,000 to the highway department for capital projects? And then, you know, at a later date,
So
we determine.
this 300,000 is not for him to build roads, it's for him to buy dump trucks.
So he needs dump trucks and he needs roads.
Okay.
So,
I got
yeah, so, I mean, what you could do,
I'm not gonna say no.
if you could allocate it to the highway department, you know, with no strings attached. I mean, I don't think you can put strings on it anyway, as an elected official. But, you just have to decide, is it gonna be, I mean, are you going to have to come back at budget and finance and fund capital projects?
Yeah, that was my question.
Yes, if he takes this money and spends $300,000 on capital project, now are we gonna have to, I mean, if he spends it on the roads, are we gonna provide the money at budget for the $250,000 dump trucks too?
Okay.
So that's the question that and the highway superintendent has to answer too.
All right. Questions?
Now, Mr. Chairman, one final point. When it comes to government services like this, and we're transferring money just from one department to another, it's a little bit easier than going to a nonprofit. So going to nonprofits, we got plenty of time, NGOs, we got plenty of time, because that clarification has not come down. But when it comes to the highway department, that's kind of like the premium pay for essential employees that we've already put out. We could disperse that money a little quicker, because it does go directly into what we call government services. So whatever you allocate tonight to the highway or request that for whatever full commission might approve, once that second tranche of money comes in May, which is at least another couple of months that we still have to think about it, then that money could be dispersed.
So what you're saying, when I asked you a while ago about the money, you said you had 300,000 wasn't earmarked. So that's the 500,000 you had in the email, that's 300 for the highway, 100 for ambulance, 100 for the sheriff's department, and then 300 on top of that.
That's it, yes, on top of that, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
I'm just making sure I'm right.
But that's not considering any commodities.
Sure, I got you.
Let me ask you a question. Usually you had $100,000 that really don't look like gonna be allocated.
Say that again.
Did you say you had 100,000 and that might not be allocated?
That's right, and that's what we're talking about, maybe earmarking back.
Well, what I'm asking, I don't know whether Ronnie can live with it. I know Ronnie was promised us $500,000. And I know he's prepared to do them roads because he was promised to do it. And, could you raise him at 400,000? And we'll count another 100,000? Could you live with that, Ronnie? And raise it 100,000?
Yeah, I'll stretch it as far as I can stretch it.
At 400,000, you think what I'm coming at?
So would that include capital projects at 250 plus 150 to go to highways? Is that how you would distribute it? If you got 400,000, would you use it on capital projects as well as highway?
I was really wanting to do honey fork and Standing Rock, but I mean, if that's what I gotta do, that's
That comes up to.
what I do. But if I
Quiet.
can't, you only can do honey fork and get a truck, I'll do honey fork and get one truck. If I can do, I'll stretch it as far as I can stretch it.
But with the 400,000, alone,
That's another mile and a half.
I don't think anybody in our county is ever gonna say, don't give money to our highway department. I mean, I don't see anybody in our county saying, no, you should not give money to our highway, but we don't need money spent on our highway
Well,
department.
every dime I can get will go to the priority roads.
Yeah.
and be honest with you, the price of gas right now, there's gonna be less gas sold. And your money's gonna be short.
Our money,
Your
when
money.
gas goes up, people quit driving, we get our money from the gas tax.
Yeah.
So when people quit driving, gas goes up to $5 a gallon, you know what we get every month? Last month it was like half.
Really.
That's what I'm
It was
thinking.
cut way down. So, you
Mr.
don't.
Chairman? Mr. Chairman, what happens if the governor suspends the gas tax? Like he's talking about doing.
Yeah, he's working.
So if he you have nothing.
It's just so many highway departments that's not gonna happen.
The sad part of it, the electric cars that keep talking about, and what are they gonna pay on the road?
They
They
got,
go all electric.
they're gonna pay us, that's already in legislation too, they're talking about in the future
Tax.
of a tax.
Taxing the liquor.
But if the governor suspended the gas tax, all highway departments would be done, so.
That's why I don't
They
understand.
pretty well squashed that pretty quick.
That's what all of them live on, isn't it?
All highway departments live on the gas tax.
All right.
I mean, this is me.
I got
And I make the motion and go with 400,000 on him, and 100,000 on them other two.
Okay.
Can I make that motion?
You can make that motion?
So you wanna give him 4 and have 50,000 go to the sheriff's department, 50,000 go to.
No, 100,000.
100,000 each.
And, 100 to your ambulance and the church. I mean,
Okay.
instead of the 500,000, banking back to 400,000. You see where I'm coming from here? Here's Ronnie back, him back to
Six.
400.
400, 100, no.
But I see 500,000.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Which
It
I
was-
understand you're talking about the 100,000 that may not be, claimed, but then we also talked about that 100,000 going toward food and commodities, so that, I guess that's where
All right, we have a motion on the floor to give, 400,000. Now, this doesn't say anything about EMS and sheriff's department.
Sheriff's
Yeah.
Department and ambulance services.
It really doesn't, but you can make the motion if you want to, Mr. Chairman, it's.
Okay, that's how he's made the motion.
Yes.
Run that by me again.
Your motion is 400,000 for the highway, 100,000 for EMS, 100,000 for sheriff's department. That's your motion. Okay, you need a second.
Second.
Second. All right, any discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed? All right, Mr. Baker.
All right, on number 5, Mr. Chairman, Parks and Recreation is requesting estimates to improve overall drainage at the park. They're requesting estimates to construct a multi-purpose football field and to, estimates to identify a gravel parking area. We can recommend, the money, we've already determined that $250,000 is going, so that's a done deal. But the question is, how do we distribute it? Do we distribute it through, do we give it to them just in 2 big bunches, 125,000 each, and then let this consulting firm monitor them? Or do we let them get these estimates and come back to a committee and tell us how much something's gonna cost, and then let us pay for them as we go?
I think if we're gonna hire somebody to monitor it, and we let them do their job. That's me. But I can't speak for other things.
So I think that's all you need is a motion to recommend that you allow the whatever consulting firm that we hire to manage
Well,
this
I
money.
think, I make the motion for that.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor, any discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the bid, the estimates, we talked about Parks and Recreation, just getting the estimates, but now if we decide to just go ahead and give that $125,000, let them do their job, who is responsible for putting out the actual bid package for those jobs?
So we talk, I think that's the athletic association, we could suspend the rule, we have a member here. But is that what we said the other night, that certain members of the committee were gonna be responsible for getting, or did they just tell us that they were getting the estimates and then
We had talked about estimates because of being audited and, you know, needing to do an actual bid package, you know, for over $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever. So if we do get these estimates and they say, you know, hey, it's gonna be this much for this, that, and the other, are we as a county responsible for putting out that bid package, or is the athletic association gonna be responsible for calling for the bid package?
You know, maybe we could suspend the rules, member Fields, and let the athletic association speak. My gut instinct tells me that we don't want to be responsible at county for putting out the bids. Maybe the athletic association can shoulder that responsibility.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules, let Ricky Roberts speak.
Second.
Yeah.
Ricky, do you have anything to say?
You got the floor, Rick.
I wasn't expecting that. Okay, this is the first I heard of that, as far as any bids going out. The ASC is probably not gonna, get any bids. You know, I mean, that's, the last meeting we had, we voted to table this whole merger thing for now, until we get more clarity on everything. But, I don't see us doing any kind of bid work to improve county property. Now, I have bid work for our property, the concession stand, just the whole range of different things.
Bid work or estimates?
Estimates, sorry, yeah. I have material estimates for a lot of stuff, but I just don't, I mean, I can ask at our next meeting in April about it, but I don't see us shouldering, the responsibility of bidding out projects for property that the county owns. I mean, you know, we got enough to worry about than worry about, you know, the drainage issue. I went down there the other day when it come that flood, and there was a little bit of water standing on the soccer field. I didn't see any drainage. You know, me and a couple of guys were down there today talking about it, and, we didn't see any issues as far as drainage. Now, I realize they want the field to be domed, you know, which is great. That's how it should be if you're gonna build one, to funnel it down to the creek.
Sure.
You know, but, I don't think we're gonna do that. We're not gonna.
And to be fair, Mr. Chairman, I think all we talked about at Parks and Recreation was estimates.
Oh,
We
yeah,
didn't discuss any bids at all,
Definitely.
we never got past estimates, so.
Yeah, but the question that I'm asking is, if we do decide just to give them the $125,000, if we give that to them, whose responsibility is it to get the bids for that work to be done?
It sounds like athletic association would not want to do anything connected with the county side. They would do the athletic association side with the concession stand maybe, but not the soccer field side, so it looks like it would fall back on county.
I thought when we bought that property over there, we was gonna let the athletic association oversee all that. And I know the county bought it, but the way I understood it, when I voted to buy it, then it was gonna be,
We would
gonna be
lease
in control of them.
Yeah, we would
Well,
lease it to them.
They were in control of all of it. And my understanding, Rick, that ain't the way it is.
Not that I know of. I mean, Doug, I always understood that we were gonna be able to use it for soccer.
So we do have Charles Parks working on memorandums of understanding and agreements that would lease the soccer fields back to the athletic association for $1 a year, and then you would have control of all of it.
Correct.
So if that were to happen, would then you guys be open to maybe handling the bids on the soccer fields if you control it at that point?
I don't know. I couldn't speak for everybody else, because that's something new tonight.
And Ricky, honest, when it comes to these NGOs and nonprofits, we've got 2 and 3 months ahead of us to work this
So
out.
this is not something we have.
No, we don't have to do
Is it
anything.
something that we can table until we have our
Absolutely.
next nonprofit or our
Absolutely.
next Parks and Rec meeting?
All right.
Because I know that Charles had been working on things, but it's still, we still gotta get on the same page with Parks and Rec and the athletics.
I'm always, it might not be the proper time to bring it up, but I've always wondered, I was involved with the Riding Club now here for years. And it was always our understanding, if we ever give that up, then it would go back to the state of Tennessee, you know. And it would go to the state. We, way it happened is county and city both own that now, okay? And just like the ballpark, I hate to say what I'm fixing to say. I was sitting on this court when we voted to help buy that ballpark over there. We put $12,500 in it at that time. Well, we've been putting money all this time in the ballpark, and hey, I'm for the ballpark, I want you to understand that before I'm just giving you a little history. I guess I can give a lot of history lesson, I'm older than most of you, but anyhow, I've always wondered, if the ballpark ever did dissolve at a ballpark, who that property would go to? Who would claim that property? And we need some clarification. If something happens, and I don't think that's gonna happen in the ballpark, but have the county been putting money in it for 40 years, I know, for 40 years. And, well, I mean, the county got some investment over there. But I don't want to control the ballpark, I want you to understand that. All I'm just saying, if it ever dissolved in a ballpark, could there be something rolled up that the county would come back to the county or whatever, you know what I mean?
Ricky might be able to answer that
The
question.
only thing I can say on that is, as far as Little League is concerned, any items that has been purchased with Little League money, I have to send that, like an asset report to the Little League, and they tell us what to do with that.
Like an
Either,
infield.
right, either they come get it and take it to other parks that may need it, or they the ones tell us what to do with Little League, with stuff bought with Little League funds.
Well, you know,
And
your
as far
county,
as the park goes, I could ask Kendra, cause Kendra done all our paperwork when it went from the Stewart County Lake Association to the AASC. You know, it took us quite a while just to get the name changed, and she could probably.
oh, you're a Stewart County resident, you wouldn't want the ballpark to go to the state or whatever, you want it to be here in.
Whoever's on the deed to the property, who's on the deed to that property? The county?
No.
If I'm not mistaken, the deed said, I swear, I think it says the children of Stewart County.
It was James A. Hart, and a bunch of them,
Wayne Jerry Wade.
and,
Cherry,
who?
Wilton Cherry.
Wilton, that's who I tried to think of. They went over and signed a note to buy that. They did. And they come to the county and we put, need to go over this again. It was $12,000. For how I know I got eat up pretty good for voting to buy it. And, well, I mean, I voted to buy it. It was an investment in our young people. And, it's still an investment in our young people. And, but I'd like some assurance if it ever did dissolve in a ballpark, where's that property gonna go?
Yeah.
I've asked that question a bunch of times, I ain't really got no answer out of it, you know.
Mr. Chairman, I think, just by way of cleaning this up, I think there's a motion maybe on the floor that you made and Commissioner Fields may have seconded it. And you want to amend that to just table this number 5?
I don't think we ever made
You
a
didn't make that
motion.
motion?
No. Did you make that
I
motion?
did not.
No, I thought you made it.
Yeah,
No, I didn't.
somebody, yes, because you asked for discussion, so you guys made the motion in second.
We need,
Yes, you
Yeah,
did.
we did.
You made the motion and you seconded it, and I brought up discussion.
we left it, ain't we?
So you'll have to remove, if you want to table it, you'll have to amend your motion or back it out.
You made the motion,
I did,
yes.
okay, I did.
The motion was that we use, monitoring? Did you write it down, Mr. Mayor?
No, it was for consulting, yeah.
Yeah, that you made the motion.
So we're just gonna table this until further discussion.
And you
I
said-
take,
and
I said this too, all right, y'all do remember asking for discussion,
Yes.
okay.
oh, we
So
table.
you are amending your
Yeah,
motion.
I'm amending my motion.
Your motion.
You amended your second.
Yeah.
Okay, now discussion.
No discussion.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Okay, Mr. Mayor, number 6, discussion of.
So this is kind of a moot point. Talking to the finance director today, what we were gonna try to do was to bring in an assistant for the VSO, Veteran Service Officer, Kathy. So what we're gonna try to do was to bring it in under ARPA funds to save the county money. Because we can take this ARPA funds and we can bring in augmented support. We could do that, just like they do in Montgomery County. They do it up there, we could do it down here, but there's a difference. They have the staffing and the departments up there to snap their finger and they can do it. But for us, our existing finance department would have to create a brand new 127 fund. You couldn't go in the 101 fund. So you're gonna have to create a brand new fund. You're gonna have duplicate entries in every fund. So the finance director felt like it was better to bring this augmented support, these 2 positions, one assistant for Kathy Freed and one in here in the visitor center to work on the weekends, to open this on the weekends. She's gonna bring that before full budget and finance committee to put that in the budget this year.
Okay,
So that's.
so we don't need to take any action.
Number 6 is a moot point, but we will hear it again at budget and finance.
Okay, I got you. All right, any new business?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. And you asked me this before, are we all done giving, allocating premium pay for essential employees? But there's another group of people that I think are really deserving, and that's our school nurses. And so we've got 3 school nurses. They were there during the pandemic, public facing, front line, during the whole pandemic. So we have 3, and I would like to,
Is it not 4?
no, well, it's the supervisor has opted out.
Okay.
So, now, we have always included the supervisors because they are engaging with the people who are frontline facing, so, public facing. So, that could be something this committee could decide. 3 or 4 nurses at $4,000 apiece would be either 12 or 16,000 that what we could recommend for premium pay
Okay.
for our school nurses.
All right. Well, we've heard information from the mayor about adding the 3 or 4 school nurses, at $4,000 apiece. Discussion, motion.
Have we heard any more from the school board, whether or not they're going to?
Yes, I'm just giving you my gut instinct that unless they change their mind, they're not gonna change. They've already submitted their plan for the year and they're not gonna change that.
Okay.
Now, my only hope was that, and I'm not trying to be mean here, but, if we did something, if we took some action, maybe that would force them into taking some action. Unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna happen, but that doesn't minimize the fact that we had bus drivers, office personnel, nurses, that were frontline people, health department workers. They were public facing during the pandemic. They showed up every day. So if we can help out a little bit with these certain groups of people, that's we can't get the teachers. They weren't there every day. We can't get that whole group of people, but there are certain groups of people we could consider, and that's what we're
Well,
asking.
this is my thing, everybody that we have dealt with in school, whether it be bus drivers or cafeteria workers or office help, we did 2,000 on all of them. And so I don't think we need to give nurses 4 and everybody else 2.
Okay, the only thing I was going on, Mr. Chairman, was that was what we gave the other nurses at the
I understand.
But I do recall what you're saying, and it might be better to go with the
Yeah,
part-time.
that would be.
And you
that
would
would be my
include all 4 at that time? At that point, you would include all 4 nurses
Yes.
at part-time?
Yes. All right.
You would include the one that opted out?
Yeah.
Who opted out?
She's the supervisor, she's a registered nurse, the other 3 are LPNs. But she's a registered nurse, but she is a supervisor. And so we have included supervisors in the past because they need to engage with their direct reports.
Terry?
You're recommending 2,000? I'll make that vote.
All right, we got a motion on the floor to give school nurses 2,000 each, four positions. All right. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, well, you had to swallow that.
Well, I know,
You
when
swallowed
somebody
real hard.
opts out of it, then, you know.
I got you. We have
I
a
hate
motion-
to everybody if I could.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second to give, school nurses up to four. Now, if she wants to opt out, then you let her opt out, but we're gonna vote to give it to her. And if she don't want it, then
She can write that to a nonprofit.
that's right, absolutely, absolutely. So, any more discussion? Okay, listen, vote,
Yes.
here, yeah, three misses. You're welcome, sir. Any more new business? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, guys.
So we're gonna talk to your pay for being late.